If you're like anyone, you've probably felt insecure at some point in your life, and that's normal. But how can you develop yourself through creative expression to get out the other side feeling stronger and feeling better? We explore that in this week's episode with Abdullah Sharif in his workshops. Okay, Abdullah, so you're doing programs, workshops, you're also doing spoken word stuff. So what are your programs, your workshops, what are they geared towards, and what inspired you to start this?
Okay, well, I do spoken word myself professionally, so my workshops are geared around spoken word. So what I do is I run workshops in schools, community centres, within communities, and what we do is we get people in and we use spoken word as a kind of hook to get people to express themselves, to start talking about issues that are going on in the community, in the world. And the biggest thing is I think that learning or taking part in spoken word itself, it helps build confidence, it helps build self-esteem and self-identity. That's a massive thing that for me is a massive focus when I do workshops. Spoken word is very niche. Myself, I feel, I'm an expert in my field, and I think that puts it above in a different level compared to other people.
So would you say that what you're doing now stems from your interest and your passion for spoken word, or was it the wanting to help the young people that came first? What was?
It's a bit of both. I think I personally got help through spoken word myself. When I was much younger, I got involved in spoken word, and I realised that helped me massively. And as I became experienced with spoken word, I wanted to kind of return that favour, as it were, in a sense. When I was younger, I had, not as much, but an identity issue in the sense of confidence in my deen, confidence in my Islam, the confidence in who I am, because I grew up in an area where the school I went to, I was pretty much the only Muslim. Apart from me and my family members, there were no other Muslims. There were pretty much nobody else from a different background except my one friend who was from Zimbabwe. That's it. So for me, it was very, very difficult. It was a massive challenge to kind of express who I was, because everybody else was, I didn't have that backup where you do in some communities where you go and, 30, 40 or much larger percentage are Muslims. So for me, it's kind of stemmed from returning something that has benefited me. So I very much want to benefit the community and get people to identify with themselves and who they are.
From your experiences when you were younger, there was that kind of peer pressure, if you like.
Definitely.
And you're building the identity and the confidence to deal with that. So when it comes to confidence, self-esteem, what have you seen in your experiences of where it really stems from? Is it from maybe how family treats the children, or is it from the society, the environment they're in?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, the family thing is massive. We've got a massive issue within families where if youngsters want to do something that parents don't approve of, in certain communities, I think there's a massive lack of support, and that ends up having a knock on self-esteem. It has a knock on confidence, because when someone's doing something, for example, artwork, 10 years ago, if somebody said, I want to be a spoken word artist when I'm older, or I want to be a nasheed singer, or whatever it was, right, he wants to be, do artwork and the rest of it. Parents would be like, you're ridiculous, you're not doing that. You can do that as a pastime. And that would knock them, because every time they go to do it, they'd be told, no, that's not the right thing, you can't do that. And that would slowly knock the confidence down. And so I think partly, for me, is massive, is the home issue. Parents need to be trained, need to learn, need to read up on what is the the correct way to kind of go about and focus their children's wants, desires, their children's focuses.
Do you think confidence is all nurture, or it's partly nature as well? From what you,
I'd say it's a bit, it's a bit of both. Definitely, it's a bit of both. I think because you see it, you have kids, and when they're born, straight from a young age, toddlers, you see some are generally quiet, some are generally very loud, and then that gets nurtured as they grow up.
Okay, now specifically, where does spoken word and expressing yourself creatively, as well as confidence, where do these two meet?
I think for me, they meet in the sense of on the stage, on the page, both senses. For me, when I'm sitting down, I'm writing something. That for me, firstly, is a part of confidence, because I may be talking about something that's very sensitive to me. I may be talking about something that's a very heavy issue to me. So to be able to put that on a page, knowing that somebody else might read this, somebody else is or probably will hear this, I think you have to build a certain amount of confidence and a thick skin, in a sense, to be able to share that, because you're sharing a part of you, something that's very personal. So when it's the page, you have that, and I think once you get to the stage, it projects it even further, because now you're standing in front of thousands of people, and what you shared on from the page, you know, to a few people, you share into 1,000 people who may or may not respond to it. They may think it's the worst thing in the world. They may think that your opinion doesn't count. So you have to have a lot of confidence to be able to put yourself on the line and say, look, this is what I feel, this is what's going on. And, you know, and be able to take the criticism as well as anything else that comes with it.
Yeah, so page and stage. I like that. And I just want to go on a little bit of a tangent. When it comes to self-confidence, it's not an on or an off thing, is it? It's not, oh, I'm confident or I'm not confident. What would you say?
Actually, I would say that it probably can be.
Okay.
Depending on what you're doing and what field you're in.
Okay.
Because I think some kids, in some cases, you know, if you're an expert at something, when you're doing that thing, you may be, you know, you'll be amazing at that, and you'll be really confident at that because you know you're good at it. But as soon as you go to do something that you know you're not good at, your confidence is on a low. So I think there's probably, you know, I'd say there's kind of a natural, place you have of confidence. But I definitely would say that goes up and down depending on what you're doing and where you are in life or what's going on.
You mentioned before that family plays a big role. What solid steps could they take to, you know, help nurture the confidence and, you know, that self-identity of their children?
I'd say that they need to kind of be sympathetic or empathize with their children. You know, it's realizing that, you know, your children are from you, but they're not you. You know what I mean? They're not, you know, you've got to let them be their own person. They are their own person. I think the strong steps they've got to take is to nurture what they have. And yeah, there might be something, you know, the parents are there to guide the kids. The kids aren't always right. But I think that the solid steps they've got to take is the main thing is just listen and communicate. I think very often we get parents that just say, you know, this is this. But it's about building a relationship where your child feels comfortable and confident to be able to come and speak to you. And I think we struggle with that in our communities.
Definitely, that's the good stuff.
Okay,
Abdullah, thanks a lot for everything. And wish you the best in your stuff.
Inshallah, Jazakallah khairan.
So I sat down with Abdullah Sharif in his studio. You know, you saw how cool it looks with all the paintings, calligraphy, all of that. And it sets the scene really for the topic of creativity and then confidence as well, and where they meet. What do you think about it?
I think it's cool. I also like the fact that he uses the spoken word as a medium to express himself, but also to gain confidence. We all struggle at some point with confidence and having the ability to go out there and express ourselves. So his medium actually is really a common one. Most people write poetry at some point, or we listen to poetry, or we aspire to be, you know. But to actually use it as a medium, as a means by which to develop character, to develop somebody's internal strength, is interesting for me. I think it's a viable alternative, definitely for the youth.
Something new, isn't it? That,
absolutely.
To think of using that to then build confidence, it's a really cool idea. And like Abdullah Sharif, he's someone who, he performs regularly his poems and stuff, but he made that decision to like try and take it to a new place. So I think that's really good. And
it's a good, because the thing is, what I would say is, especially during the early years, I mean, the teenage years, adolescence, most people are finding themselves. They're trying to find a voice, they're trying to find out who they are, their personality. And in those days, it's really easy for people to fall back and just be kind of too self-critical, or to lose their voice, to be a bit shy, to be a bit concerned about their opinions. But developing your character, developing your own, I guess, your own sense of worth at that age, through a medium such as art or spoken word poetry, is definitely something that really works. I can tell you I've done it when I was a teenager. And just writing out your thoughts, your ideas, is therapeutic, if anything.
Like you said before, you hit the stage, you put it on
hit the page. Exactly, yeah. So it's therapeutic because, again, you're recording your emotions, you're expressing them, and that expression helps you actually just bleed out your fears, your concerns on paper. You know, so I think, again, it's a medium, it's a mode that can be utilized not only by the youth, but everyone in general.
Yeah, and you don't have to share that with anyone. It should be just yours.
Exactly.
And I guess it's stages, isn't it? First you write it for yourself, then you might share it, then eventually you could talk about it directly. You know, because I find that perhaps writing poetry is a bit indirect. You could describe your feelings, etc., your identity in an indirect way, because you might not be comfortable sharing that directly.
Absolutely, but it's about also exposure.
Yeah.
It's about being able to kind of put your emotions, your feelings, your point of view, even if it's just on paper to begin with, that's an initial stage.
You commit to it.
Exactly. And then how do you go by expressing that beyond that? Now, he did mention something interesting, that as a child, he was one of the only children in his school who was a Muslim or Asian.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he found that there was a pressure from society for him to identify himself. And he had no other, I guess, outlet except the poetry, which helped him express himself and kind of stamp his identity. And many people will face that. Maybe they're a bit too tall for their age group, maybe they're a bit too short, maybe they're a bit different. And you need to find ways to kind of expel that anxiety, to gain confidence, to reach out, to establish yourself as somebody who is worthwhile, the attention and respect of others. And again, the spoken word is a powerful medium. Many people, again, we're very aware that confidence doesn't come easily for most people. People have to sometimes train or to be conditioned to find confidence. That's not the debate. Are people naturally born confident, or can they just acquire that skill through extensive, I guess, rehearsal or conditioning? What do you think?
Well, I just finished a book called Emotional Intelligence, and he talked about one of the topics was confidence. And I know, like, his PhD is like very, he knows his stuff basically when it comes to the brain. And he said that the brain, mostly, it can be changed. Even into adulthood, it can be changed with enough training, with enough experience, with enough learning. It can change. But it's much more moldable when you're young, like before the age of 6. So before the age of 6, that's when you're going to get your sort of base foundation in confidence, in empathy, in different, you know, how you express yourself and all that. However, beyond that, I would always say, you know, you can train. It is a skill, and so you don't be self-defeating, isn't it? You know, you can always learn.
And it's important as well to kind of, I mean, it's not, confidence comes in different shapes. It's not necessarily to be the loudest person. That's kind of like, that's one form of confidence, which may also be harmful. To have too much confidence may harm you, right? But having too little confidence may also deprive you of things. Now, we all know what it feels like to have low self-esteem and low confidence at times. But according to studies by the National Institution of Self-Esteem, in the last 20 years alone, cases of depression, anorexia, and obsessive disorders have more than doubled. The youth today are faced with much more pressure to conform and to comply. Perhaps it is time for us to find alternative means to express ourselves and to gain self-worth. Confidence comes in many ways. There are people who are quiet, but they're very confident. There are those who are very loud, but that externalization of, I guess, their fears is just a masking for their inner insecurities.
Cover up the insecurity, So I think confidence, what it is being okay with you.
Exactly.
How you are.
Self-acceptance.
Yes, that's what it is ultimately. So it doesn't matter if you're loud, you're quiet, you're shy, you like to talk to people, you don't like to meet people. It doesn't matter. However you happen to be, accept that. That's being confident. And then it doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means you accept how you are. You accept that you have flaws and everyone else has flaws.
Absolutely.
And you've accepted that. From that, only from that level, can you start building on that to improve yourself, to iron out some of the flaws that you might be holding you back from doing what you want.
And it's an important element of any person's character to be real with oneself. You know, to know that these are my limitations. These are the things that I find admirable in my character. These are the things I aspire towards. And to be okay to tell people, to share that, to show your true self to others, rather than trying to mask it behind different things, you know, under the guise of I guess, not being confident in yourself, so on and so forth. It is something that most people do face at some point of their lives. They may feel uncomfortable, for example, with somebody else who is more talented than they are.
Yeah.
Or somebody who has more wealth than they have, more popularity. And it makes them feel, I guess, less confident in who they are as an individual. Not realizing that we all have something special in ourselves that others may not have to the same extent.
Yeah, that's where the principle that I have is to go with your strengths. You know, make your strengths so good, you're so good in what you're good at, that the weaknesses don't matter as much. Because you can't be perfect, you can never get rid of all the flaws. So you might as well focus on what you're good at and get even better at that. Rather than you're trying to pick up all the little flaws that you have, you'll never finish.
And that's one thing that people have to remember, that every successful person is successful in one field in most cases. Einstein is not Beethoven. Beethoven is not Michelangelo. So you have a field that you have a natural capacity and ambition that will give you confidence. If you give Einstein a piece of paper and pen and give him equations, he's confident in that. Give him maybe a violin, I don't know. He may not be as confident, vice versa. Right? So it's about finding where you find a natural advantage and honing that in, and also realizing that you're not going to be perfect everywhere, in everything. And that's natural, that's okay. But it's about really kind of giving yourself that edge to realize that, okay, you may not be an A star in this field, but it doesn't mean you're a B minus in everything. Okay? Find something else that will help you actually realize your true worth and your true value.
And also, like, it comes down to how you measure success, or whatever you want to call it, progress. You know, if you're only looking, you know, what's a trend these days is starting like a technology company. That's a trend. Since Mark Zuckerberg, since Instagram, you know, got sold for $1 billion after 200 days. That's cool. But all the people that aren't good at that, they're not developers, they're not coders, they're not, you know, business people. Does that mean automatically for the next 50 years they're losers?
Exactly,
no. Just because it's not cool now, it doesn't mean that you can't work on what you're good at. And in the end, are you doing it for yourself to get satisfaction out of doing good work, or are you doing it for the recognition? Because eventually recognition is going to fade when the thing doesn't become so trendy anymore.
Absolutely. As I say, you begin with passion, you get purpose out of that, and you get profit as a result of that. But it comes from confidence and knowing that what you have to offer the world is valuable, and that you're the right person for that. So you build that confidence within, internally. So we're going to go online and actually look at what the online community has said about this topic. Self-esteem is hard to build, but so easy to crush. That's a really good observation right there. It's hard to build, but it's easy to crush.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. It takes a lot to actually develop a level of confidence in yourself, but a few words can destroy it.
I agree. However, I would add something, is that if you have the mechanisms in your mind, you know how your thought processes work, then crushing won't be too hard. Won't be too easy, or it'll be easier to build it up again. If you know yourself, it comes down to self-awareness. So yeah, it is easy to crush, but at the same time, if you have the mechanisms in place, it could also be easy to build.
To build this, exactly. And the second one says, those who hold you accountable for all you do are doing you a big favor. They help you build true and lasting self-esteem. So in effect, I guess what he's or she's saying is that the more exposure you get to criticism, to obstacles, to people giving you negative feedback, they're only highlighting something in your character that may be legitimate. They're only telling you things that perhaps are legitimate. And if you focus on that and how to improve it rather than why they're telling me this, you've got an advantage because you know what to focus on and what to improve.
Well, the words used there is hold you accountable. It's not criticizing and looking at every little negative thing. It's saying, look, you did that, it was okay, but I feel you can do better. Like, you're better than that. That is the type of, you know, if you want to call it criticism, that is really going to push you forward. And that's the type of people, you don't want people that are yes-mans, you know, you want people that are going to push you forward.
Absolutely.
So let's check out what people said on the streets about this topic of confidence and creative expression.
See you on the other side.
Kind of not boring, but like, as soon as you feel confident about something, you just go and do it. Like, I think a lot of people are more confident than other people.
And that's natural.
Yeah, I think that's natural.
Okay. But I think you can fake confidence, can't you? You can, like, it's not like a natural attribute. You can sort of learn. I think you can learn to be more confident. You can fake it. Make yourself appear confident, but inside you're not.
Okay.
I think like I think it can grow on you depending on like what you're doing. So any example, you could just say if you're giving a presentation in like a school or something, the first time you do it, it's going to be like a nerve-wracking thing because you've never done it before. But as you do it more times, you'll get more comfortable and you'll get better at it as well.
Yeah, so you can learn confidence. Yeah. That's your answer. Okay.
Be confident. The way you treat yourself sets a standard for everyone else around you.
Confidence might be something that takes root when we're younger and we feel we can't stop it. But believe me, it is possible.
Don't feel ashamed or shy to express yourself when you truly believe in something. You have just as much right as anyone else to pass your message on, to express yourself.
Practice being vulnerable in front of people. Doing things that might be a bit weird. Get out of your comfort zone.
You see, it's not what they call you that matters. It's what you answer to.
In the end, if we keep trying things, and we keep going, and we keep falling over, that is how we're going to get out of our comfort zone and gain that confidence by being vulnerable in front of other people. By standing still and being scared forever, we're not going to move at all.
Don't allow yourself to be surrounded by people who constantly knock you down. Rather, empower yourself by being around those who love and respect you, and in turn will help you nurture a sense of confidence, a healthy sense of confidence.
Rise above the mark, help others around you to be confident, and gain that confidence yourself by pushing that boat out there.
Rise above the mark.